This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome everyone for joining us this afternoon. My name is Glatstein. I live in Kew Garden Hills, Queens, in New York. Okay, we're going to begin by saying Tehillim. Our tefillos and learning should be as chus for Shalema for Nas and Tzvi ben Sarah Rivka Kashtia L'Refush. Okay, we begin with Kapitel Kuf Lamed 130 of Tehillim. Shir HaMalois Mimamakim Karasicha Adonai Adonai Shema V'Koili Tiena Zmecha Kashuvais L'Kol Tachanunai Im Avoinais Tishmaya Adonai Miyamoid Ki Imcha Slicha Leman Tivarei Ki Visi Adonai Kivisa Nafshi V'Lidvaroi Ha'icholti Nafshi L'Adonai Mishamrim L'Aboiker Shomerim L'Aboiker Yachel Yisrael El Adonai Ki Im Adonai HaChesed V'Harbe Yimoi Fidus V'Hu Yiftes Yisrael Mikol Avoinoi Sav. Going to Kapitel Kuf Mem Beis 142. Maskele David V'Yoisai V'Amara Sfila Kaili Al Adonai Ezak Kaili Al Adonai Eschanan Eshvaich Lefanav Sichi Tzarasi Lefanav Agid B'Hisatef Alai Ruchi V'Yata Yadata Nesivasi B'Oirach Zu Halech Taminu Fachli Habed Yaminu Rei V'Yein Li Makir Avad Manois Mimeni Ein Doresh L'Nafshi Za'akti Elecha Adonai Amarti Ata Machsi Chelki B'Yeretz HaChayim Hakshiva Rinasi Kidaloisi Me'oid Hatzileni Me'roi Defai Ki Amitzu Mimeni Hoitzia Mimasker Nafshi L'Hoidois Hashemecha B'Yachtiu Tzadikim Ki Sigmal Aloi. I would like to share with you a thought for Chanukah that Haba Aleinu L'Teva Mitz Hashem tomorrow evening. Perhaps the most well-known statement in all of Shas, in the entire Gemara, perhaps the most famous two words in the whole Talmud Bavli, is the Gemara Masechta Shabbos Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. My Chanukah. What is Chanukah? What is the miracle that we commemorate during the 8 days of Chanukah? And the Gemara goes on to say something we're all familiar with: how the Greeks entered the Heichal and defiled all the flasks of oil in the Heichal in the Beis Hamikdash. And when the Chashmonaim prevailed, they searched and found only one flask that was sealed with the signet of the Kohen Gadol. They only had enough oil to last for 1 day, and miraculously it lasted for 8 days. Says the Gemara, L'shana acheres, kavam v'asam, yamim tovim v'hala v'hoida. So what is the celebration of Chanukah? So the Gemara is saying very clearly we're celebrating the miracle of the oil. And yet, to say that the outstanding feature of Chanukah is the miracle of the oil is very surprising, very difficult to say, because historically we know that the Jewish people were fighting for survival. The Greeks wanted to decimate Judaism as we know it. And if you look in the Al Hanisim Tefillah that we add on Chanukah, we say, Kisha'amda Malchus Yavan Harasha Al Amcha Yisrael, that the Yevanim tried to destroy Judaism. And we say, V'yata b'rachamecha harabim, amadat alem v'yisarasam. Hashem performed great military miracles. Gibayrim b'yad chaloshim, v'rabim b'yad ma'atim. So ask Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, and you could find this in the new edition of the Sichos Musar on page Samach Zayin. From the Al Hanisim Tefillah, it's quite clear that the main miracle was the military miracle. Not a word is mentioned about the miracle of the oil. And yet, if you look in the Gemara only mentions the miracle of the oil. We could add another question. This is the well-known question, the famous question of the Pnei Yoshua, that the miracle of the oil was not even necessary, because there is a halachic principle, Tuma Hutra B'tzibur, which means if the majority of Klal Yisrael is Tameh, it's permitted to do the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash B'tumah. So it wasn't even necessary for Hashem to make a miracle with the oil. Why would Hashem have to do that? We know the Rebbeinu Shalom prefers to allow the world to continue to go in its natural course, unless it's absolutely necessary to make a miracle. Well, in this case, it wasn't necessary. All of this would indicate that the primary cause for celebration should be the military campaign, that Hashem saved our lives. And that was a miracle that we needed. And yet the Gemara makes no mention of the military success. All the Gemara mentions is the miracle of the oil that lasted for 8 days. Let me direct your attention to Yosef HaTzadik. When Yosef was sold down to Mitzrayim, the pasuk says, "V'hinei orchas Yishmaelim ba mi Gilad." There was a caravan of Arabs coming from Gilad, Ugmalehem noisim nichos v'tzari v'loit holchem lahoyin Mitzrayim. That there was a caravan of Arabs and they were carrying different types of spices and perfumes on their way down to Mitzrayim. And Chazal comment, you could look in the Yalkut Shimoni, Remez Kuf Membeis. The Yalkut Shimoni asks, Arabs are not known, how should we say this? They're not known for their pleasant aroma. I remember when I was a kid, the first time we went to Eretz Yisrael, I have cousins in Eretz Yisrael who are very into visiting the most dangerous areas, the areas most heavily occupied by Arabs. And to them, the more dangerous the area is, the bigger the mitzvah is to go there. And they schlepped their naive cousins from America to a remote area in Hebron, which was completely Arab-occupied, except for a few brave families. And I remember walking through that neighborhood. I was about 10 years old. And it was so dangerous, at one point an Arab actually darted out of the street and headed toward us with a baseball bat. Luckily, our guide had a pistol. But that's a story for another time. And I remember the whole neighborhood had such a terrible odor. And we didn't know what it was. And then we saw dozens of Arabs swimming in a large pool. And the water was not too clear. And when we asked what was that swimming pool, we were told that's not a swimming pool, that's the sewage system. So the Yishmaelim are not known for their pleasant aroma. Why were the Arabs in this caravan that Yosef was sold to, why were they selling spices and besamim and perfume? Usually they transport itron, which is tar or hides, very smelly substances. Says the Medrash, Hashem is telling Yosef, Hashem is trying to tell Yosef, look what I prepared for Yosef HaTzadik. Look what I made for you. I specially transported you in a caravan that gave forth the most fragrant aroma. Now, if you think about these words of Chazal, what are Chazal trying to tell us? Yosef was just on the top of the world. He was Yaakov's favorite son. He was given the royal garment of the Kseinas Pasim. All the Torah that Yaakov learned in the Yeshiva Shem Ve'evar, Yaakov teaches only him. And now Yosef has been reduced to be sold as a slave to the land of Egypt, the most immoral, degenerate society in the world, a land of Tumah, a land of depravity, a land that's completely sealed off. No slave ever escaped there. He's sold to Arabs. His whole world is coming crashing down. You think Yosef could care less if it smelled good or it smelled bad? That was the last thing on his mind, what it smelled like. What is Hashem trying to tell Yosef by transporting him in a pleasantly fragrant caravan? Why would Yosef even care about that at this point in time? We find something very similar, that when Bnei Yisrael were leaving Mitzrayim after 210 years, the pasuk says, Hayoim atem yoitzim b'chodesh Aviv. Hashem emphasizes and Hashem focuses on, Klal Yisrael, look when I'm taking you out. It's the springtime. And Rashi asks, no kidding, it's the springtime. Klal Yisrael knew what season it was. Says Rashi, Hashem is emphasizing and highlighting, look, Jewish people, look what a great favor I'm doing for you. I took you out on a beautiful day. I took you out in good weather. Look what a good God I am. It's not too cold. It's not too hot. It's not raining outside. This is what it means, Moitzi Asirim B'Kosharis, that Hashem takes out prisoners at the right time. Now think about this for a moment. The Jews had just suffered 210 years in slave labor. They were tortured. They were harassed. The children were murdered. Millions of Jews were killed. Their babies were thrown into the Nile. They were put in the cement of the buildings. It was a Holocaust. It was nothing short of a Holocaust. And Hashem is saying, look at the weather outside. Look how pleasant the spring is. Weather? Spring? Just get us out of here, Klal Yisrael said. When my grandfather was liberated from the death camps in 1945, after everything he suffered through, seeing his family and friends murdered, gassed before his eyes, imagine if someone would have told him, Rabbi, look what a beautiful day it is. What a beautiful day it is, he would have said. What kind of nonsense is that? Just get me out of this Gehenna. Why even talk about the weather? And we could point out something most amazing, and that is, how long do you think the Jewish people enjoyed the pleasant weather? Because once the Jewish people reached an area called Sukkos, the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel teaches us that the Jewish people were surrounded by the Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory. The clouds of glory were a climate-controlled bubble, and the Jewish people wouldn't even realize or know or feel what the weather was like. So the pleasant weather was of no consequence to them once they reached Sukkos. Now, at this point in time, they were at Ramses. You know how long it took them to get from Ramses to Sukkos? Well, it took them so short that their bread did not have a chance to rise. That means it took them less than 18 minutes to reach Sukkos from Ramses. So all of this spring, pleasant weather was only being experienced for 17 minutes or less. And that's what Hashem is making a big deal of. After 210 years of brutality, look what a nice day it is for 17 minutes. Let's come back to Yosef HaTzadik. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, it's not just about a good smell, and it's more than just spices and perfume. As Yosef's world was coming crashing down, Yosef was likely to completely fall apart, to give up hope. Yosef may think Hashem has cast him away. Hashem is ignoring him. Hashem doesn't care about him. At this tragic juncture in time, Hashem is sending Yosef a message. No, Yosef, I'm here. I'm with you. I haven't forgotten about you. I haven't forsaken you. I'm not forgetting about you. I'm not throwing you down to Mitzrayim. I'm holding your hand. I'm going down to Mitzrayim together with you. Anoichi ered imcha Mitzrayima. I'm going down with you. The sweet smell of perfume was a ray of light in Yosef's dark world. It was the ray of light that would give Yosef the confidence and the bitachon that he's not forsaken. Instead of feeling Rebbeinu Shalom is casting him away, Yosef would now feel that Rebbeinu Shalom is guiding him on a mission, which ultimately he will rise and overcome. What we learned, says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, is that it wasn't just an isolated miracle that Yosef should experience a sweet smell, but rather the miracle of the smell would illuminate the entire experience of Yosef's descent to Mitzrayim. It would give Yosef the perspective that he is not forgotten, but rather he's being sent on a mission. Let's turn to Bnei Yisrael leaving Mitzrayim. Klal Yisrael is leaving Mitzrayim. Hashem is giving them the greatest gift. He took the Jewish people out of the land of Egypt. But when you give someone a gift, say Chanukah, aside from giving a beautiful gift, as a sign of love, as a sign of endearment, you don't just give a gift. You wrap the gift in a beautiful wrapping paper. You put a ribbon around it. You make a bow. Not that a ribbon or a bow makes the gift more valuable. The retail value of the gift remains exactly the same. Why wrap it? Why put it in a bow? That makes it more special. It shows ahava. It shows love. It adds an intangible touch. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives Klal Yisrael the most wonderful gift that any nation ever received. He took a people that were enslaved in a country no one ever escaped from, and he took us all out. But Hashem says, that gift, it's not enough. Let me wrap the gift. Let me tie a ribbon around it. I'm not just going to take you out. I'm going to take you out in the spring when the weather is nice. The weather was the wrapping paper. The weather was the bow. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, it's like a family that has a precious jewel, an heirloom. It's invaluable. It's worth millions. It's been in the family for hundreds of years. And lo and behold, the jewel is lost. The family is beside themselves. They look everywhere. They can't find it. And after an all-out extensive search, one of the little children find the jewel. The father runs over, kisses the child. The entire family is overjoyed that they have the jewel back. But you know who's the happiest? The child who found the jewel. He's not only overjoyed that they have the jewel, he's especially happy because he also received a kiss from his father. In the grand scheme of things, leaving Mitzrayim in good weather is not that important. But it's not the weather. It's the message. The weather is the wrapping paper. It's the ribbon. It's a neshika. It's a ha'aras panim. It's a kiss. It's a kiss from the Rebbeinu Shalom. The military victory of the Chashmonaim was certainly the miracle that we needed. Our lives were in danger. The future of the Torah was in danger. And that was the miracle the Bnei Yisrael required for their survival, military success. But that alone, says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, does not show the extent of Hashem's love for us. Because He had to save us. He's our Creator. He's our Father. He gave us the Torah. We would have ceased to exist as a people had Hashem not saved us. Says Rebbeinu Shalom, if I just save you, you're not going to get the point. I want to show you that I'm not saving you only because I have to. I'm saving you because I love you. Your survival as a people, that's the bare gift, says Rebbeinu Shalom. But let me wrap the gift in a special wrapping paper. Let me tie a bow around it. Let me make a miracle that you don't really need. Yeah, you could get away with tamei oil. Tuma is hutra b'tzibor. Halachically, you could use tamei oil, impure oil. You don't need wrapping paper. You don't need a bow. You don't need a ribbon. But I want to wrap the salvation and add a special touch of love. That's the miracle of the oil. Our physical and spiritual Yeshua, that was the gift. The miracle of the oil, that was the wrapping paper. That was the ribbon. That was a ha'aras panim. The miracle of the shemen, that was a kiss from the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that is the greatest cause of celebration. We're going to conclude with one parak of Tehillim. Parak Kuf Chaf Aleph, chapter 121. Shilam alois, esoinai el ha'arim, me'ayin yavoy Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, oisei shamayim ba'aretz. Al yitein lamoit raglecha, al yonum shoymerecha. Hinei lo yonum v'lo yishan, shoymer Yisrael. Adonai shoymerecha, Adonai tzilecha al yad yaminecha. Yoimam hashemesh lo yakeka, v'yoreach ba'aloyla. Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra, yishmar es nafshecha. Adonai yishmar tzeitzcha uveyecha, me'ata v'yad olam. Misha ber chaveseinu, Avram Yitzchak v'Yakov. Moshe and Dor Shlomo yivarach b'rapes hachoyle, Nasan Tzvi ben Sarah Rivka kashtia. Bavur shakol mispalim bavurai. B'schar zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu yimol yirachamim alav. Lach limoy l'rapoisoi, lach aziko lach hayoisoi. V'yishlach loy mehira refuah shlema min hashamayim, l'ramachiv arav shesagidav, b'sach sharcha leYisrael. Refuas ha-nefesh, refuas ha-guf, hashtab ha-glov zman koriv v'noy maramein.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.